Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. I'm Stacy. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this book, The House of Eve by Sadeqa Johnson. I really love that book, but I will give it a chance and see, Kindle. I downloaded Originality 5 out of 5. My overall book is Stacy. I am excited to share with you the newest book that I read this year. Alabama, and the audio and the town that was listening. Yep. The House of Eve. This book was by Sadeqa Johnson. It was a historical fiction. I read it February the 17th through February the 18th. And this was a historical fiction book. And I'm reading it because it was Black History Month. And I just trust this author so much. After reading The Yellow Wife last year, and that was one of my top rated books, I just knew that I would read The House of Eve. I don't remember where I purchased this book from, but basically I recommended it to myself. But my friend Kirsten, she was like, read that one. And I just stuck to it and read it. And I was not disappointed with this book. The Yellow Wife just touches on a subject of history that just was so awful, but it was necessary. And how she wrote it, it just made you think like, what? I can't believe women endured and suffered so much. In this book, it has a totally different take on what was happening with these characters. One girl, her name was Eleanor. She was a wife. She was trying to fulfill her duties and her marriage with her college boyfriend, and the mother-in-law, and the ins and outs of just trying to fulfill the steps in the process. Because in those days, you were supposed to get married, have a baby, and live happily ever after, But also in the 50s, they were allowing women to go to college. And still, people was doing their thing back then. They was getting down. Would I recommend this book? Absolutely. Would I read this book again? Maybe I will a few years down the line, and it's just still on my mind. But right now, it's so fresh. I'm just like, wow. Wow. That was my last word once I finished reading this book. And it wasn't the perfect book, because in the middle, it was little like, okay, get to the point. But they did have the perfect like dual storyline with both of the characters. The younger girl, her name was Ruby. She was very ambitious and she was driven, and she was dealing with some issues on her own personally with her parents and how she came up poor, and she didn't have the means to get where she wanted to be, but she knew what she had to do to get there. And she made some tough decisions as a 17-year-old as well. The characters that resonated with me, I would just say the thoughts and emotions is with Eleanor and Ruby. They both were women just in the times where they just had to deal with the cards that they were dealt with. And maternally, you as a female, we are the carriers. So we have the final say, but really we don't have the ultimate say. But with our bodies, it's just like, okay, it's going to do what it wants to do. We have no control over that. The body's going to do whatever it wants to do. And my opinion about this writing style, I would say she did not disappoint me with this historical fiction. The writing style, 5 out of 5. The readability, 5 out of 5. The relatability, I say 5 out of 5. Personal impact, 4 out of 5. Plot, 4 out of 5. Originality, 4 out of 5. I would like to give this book like a 4.5 out of 5. I loved how the story just flowed organically, and it just made sense just adding it in together, tying all the loose ties. I didn't know about this book before, and I still haven't read the synopsis on this book. I just know that I like the author. What wasn't my cup of tea was the men in the story. Their storylines just faded out, and it affects men too when a child is involved, whether they like to say it or not. But men, they do play a huge part, and the loss or the gain of a child affects the men. And this book was necessary. Like, if you haven't read anything by her, for women, not just Black women, but just women as a whole, This is one of the staples that I think that everybody should, every woman, even men, y'all should look at this book. One word I would say that describes this book, I would say it was very resilient. This book just like bloomed into something you're just like, oh my gosh, it just was just different. Did they have any foreshadowing themes? I would say yes. They did have a little bit of foreshadowing where something happened in the beginning and you're just like, it's going to come back around. And it did. Like, she tied in all the loose ties with this book. The dominant emotions it left me feeling after I walked away from this book was just like, women go through a lot. They go through a lot with their bodies, with their choices, with their thinking. It's just a lot of layers that goes in with being a woman. So absolutely, I would say by far this book was just, they had a message that the author, she wanted to communicate and deliver, and she gave a great message in this book. And you have to read it because there's some things into the very last page I was just like, whoa, okay. And this story could have happened, and it probably has happened because I know people who has experienced this from watching and just like knowing people from the church and people who had secret pregnancies and how they used to handle those women back in the day. Like, it was just like, it was crazy. The spice, I would say it was like a 2 out of 5, but it was definitely necessary with the plot and everything that was going on with this book. So, and I love the cover. The cover was cool. She had a lot of blurbs on the back of this book. What did I tab? I just broke the book up into 4 sections, but I read way more than these sections. She mentioned the YMCA. This book, in 1950s Philadelphia, 15-year-old Ruby is on the track of being the first in her family to attend college. In spite of having a mother more interested in keeping a man than raising a daughter, but a taboo love affair threatens to pull Ruby back into the poverty and desperation that has passed on to her like a birthright. So how many people we know that has been stuck in poverty? Like, oh my gosh, I know a lot of people in the community that is stuck in poverty, and it's like a cycle of different things that happen that keeps you there and keeps that family down. So Eleanor, she arrives in Washington, D.C. with the ambitions and secrets that she kept from her past. When she meets the handsome William Pride at Howard University, they fall madly in love, but William hails from one of the DC's elite, wealthy black families, and his parents don't just let anyone in their folds. Eleanor hopes that a baby will make her finally feel at home in the Williams family and grant her the life she's been searching for. But having a baby and fitting in is easier said than done. With the stories colliding in the most unexpected way, Ruby and Eleanor both make decisions that shapes the trajectory of their lives. That is like spot on. That's so good how she wrote that synopsis. This lady, she could write her tail off. And she has a purpose. Like, her purpose is loud and clear, and she's brave enough to tell the stories that are forgotten about and left behind. And she can make you love a character, hate a character, and it's just so cool how she does it. But if you haven't read The Yellow Wife, she won awards for that book in 2022. And she has the new book out, and it's called The Keeper of Lost Children. But this is Sadeqa Johnson. And I haven't read her book, The Keeper of Lost Children, yet. But I'm going to get that book, and I'm going to just wait and hold off and read it next year if possible. Because I savored this book, and I really enjoyed myself while I was reading this one. So that gives me something to look forward to. And she was on Reese Book Club. And Reese, you did your thing by picking this girl as your book. Because this was really, really good. So I do recommend this one.